All right, we're live. Hey, everyone, welcome. Zubin here. Hey, today I'm going to do this live video like I do with my supporter tribe, the group of people that subscribe, and we go live fairly often. We're just going to share our experience of this. Everything just as it is. It's sort of a full stop. It's kind of the full ending of all seeking, all searching for something other than. Although ironically, this is the strange part, seeking for something other than can arise as another texture of this. So let's talk. Let's talk about it. Last couple of videos I've made on YouTube, boy, did I get a lot of emails and feedback and fun stuff because they're like, Zubin, you're talking about yourself in the third person and you're so angry and bitter and disgusted with gurus and spirituality. And spirituality is so important because insert your own projection here, right? And it was adorable, actually. Because when I do these live videos, it's just me meing. It's me expressing what my experience is. I'm not trying to teach or have you believe something or anything like that. It's just, well, here's how it is here. I mean, I started on this like chaos spiral back in 2012 unintentionally when I moved to Las Vegas. I left Stanford. I moved to Las Vegas. Here I was, this like really highly conditioned, neurotic, crazy doctor who'd been working as a hospital doctor for so many years, a decade, got this opportunity to move to Vegas to try to do something new in healthcare. And that transition, that moving from the known to the unknown for really the first time, because everything in my life previously had been so planned out, led to a spontaneous kind of awakening where suddenly there was this realization. I've told the story elsewhere. It's just a story. Nothing really happened because there's no one for it to happen to. That's the strange thing. There's just what's happening, just the happening. But the happening looked like this Zubin character, third person, because narcissism, apparently, suddenly realized that he wasn't what he thought he was. He wasn't his personality. He wasn't his story. He wasn't his body. He wasn't his mind. In fact, he wasn't anything. All that was this. And that includes the appearance of this, the appearance of our story, the appearance of our memories, the appearance of our connections, our love for others, all of it, compassion, everything just appears in and as this, the textures of life. So you could just say life is lifing. And over the course of the next, what is it now, 2025? So it would have been 13 years. Is that right? Did I do that math right? Someone check me on this. Math was not my strong point, which is why I went into medicine. It was this unfolding where that insight that happens in a flash to no one, apparently was lost. The sort of sense of a separate me came back, and then all the seeking, all the spiritual seeking started. It's like, wait, I saw this truth. I saw this truth. Already the mind tells a story about it. Like, I saw this truth and now it's gone. I must learn more about it. I must read every book. I must listen to every online guru. I'll listen to Sam Harris talk about it in Waking Up because I'm not religious. So a guide to spirituality without religion. Perfect. That was a great gateway. And then I learned to meditate. And then I learned to do self-inquiry. And then I met my friend Angelo, who cracked open this whole idea that, oh, anybody can disappear in this way. And maybe the way to do it is you do all these practices that then exhaust the mind, and then poof, you realize that was the problem. The seeking mind was the problem. By giving it something to do, you use it against itself. And for some people that works well. For other people, myself included, it can sometimes lead to a trap where the mind starts to believe its own bullshit and it thinks it just has to work it. Like most physicians and nurses and healthcare professionals, we feel like we can work hard enough and get what we want. So this sense of a separate me wants happiness, it wants peace, it wants liberation, it wants bliss. It has no idea what that is. It can't, because the engine that generates this sense, this energetic of separate me, is the problem. It's the apparent veil over reality, which is just as it is. So I titled this video something about the textures of life are just as they are. What a relief. And so as this thing energetically unwinds, because you're not doing it. You can't do it because there really isn't a you beyond a collection of thoughts and all this. And you've heard me say this before. You've heard a million gurus say this. But until you know it, until it's clear in this moment, which isn't a moment, it's just this, it's all intellectual. And you can talk non-dualish. You can speak the language of non-dualish and go, I don't exist and this doesn't exist and I'm not going to use personal pronouns. And wouldn't that be funny if they ask you for your pronouns, like you work for some organization that's like super woke and they want you to put your pronouns in your email and you just put a question mark? Like, I don't know what I am. That'd be really funny. But people who learn this intellectually, myself included for quite a while, can speak in this way. They can convince themselves that they don't exist. And yet here they are feeling separate, suffering, but speaking like they don't. And then there's this kind of spiritual ego that happens where now you think you're better than everyone else. And the insight of awakening can give you that sense. It's like, oh, wow, no, whoa. And then the ego comes and co-opts it. The ego's not really a thing. It's just a movement. It's just a process. This is my experience. I don't know shit, you guys. Seriously. This character knows nothing. It can't. But we have to flap our mouths. And I'm live on YouTube and like some people are watching. So it's like, well, I'll flap my mouth. But I think the idea here is feel into this with the part of you that isn't mind. And that won't make sense to the mind, but it just kind of weirdly makes sense. So the ego co-opts this and now tells the story of the awakened one who can teach. And there's so many people online that do this that you can, when you watch them, you think they have this knowledge, you think they're somehow better because that's how they're portraying themselves. And it can be useful for some, it's seemingly, because maybe something shifts or they see things in a certain way and it's always a surprise. It's always like you hear something and it's a surprise and the mind goes, gonk, the mind goes on tilt and it shuts the fuck up for a second. And when that happens, everything is just as it is, without the mind overlaying how it should be, how it could be, how it was, how it will be, and what it is. The mind says, this is a microphone, this is Zubin, this is a camera, this is comment streaming. That's all a story. What this is simply the textures of life texturing. They're just exactly as they are. And so for me, the experience was when things start to collapse. And for me, that happened, again, I didn't do it. It felt like I did it in retrospect because the story tells the story of Zubin went on this meditation retreat and he listened to this guru and he read this book and he hung out with these enlightened people, story. And then, oh, this thing shifted in that. So the story can be told that way, but that's not at all how it is. All that gets dropped because something energetic just drops. It's not a gain. You don't gain something. You don't gain some peace or insight. It's just, no. The obscuration of this energy that feels that it is a separate self moving through space and time just relaxes. And that can happen in a million different ways. None of them causative. It's all the story we tell. It's almost like, well, this is what it looks like in all these different ways. And, when I talk about Pierce Salguero's threads of enlightenment or threads of awakening model, it's another map that nothing describes the territory here because nothing can. But it's another interesting map that says people wake up in all kinds of different ways. And then you realize there were no people and there was no waking up. There's just awakeness. There's just this. But it can show up in a million different ways. So for me, it showed up as going to retreats, having clarity in retreats when the mind calmed down, then having emotional openings, like heart openings, this kind of kundalini energy, this energetic sense in the body that people talk about, that would happen. And then what really kind of tricked it out in the last few months and year, maybe 2 years, is all the unconscious stuff that we sit on, which by the way is also a story. Like there's no unconscious. Where can you find the unconscious? It's just stuff that arises that comes from nowhere, causes and conditions from nowhere. But you could tell a story of childhood trauma. You could tell the story of repressed emotion. You could tell the story of seeing your conditioning. And you don't really do this. Like maybe you go see a therapist. I saw an internal family systems therapist by Zoom, and it was great because I could feel these different energies and parts that were arising in any moment that were reacting to things, and I could see them and I could accept them. But did I really do that? it's a story that I tell, but there was something energetic that shifted. So, when I say there's nothing to do, there's no one to listen to, all the gurus are bullshit, that's true. It's also true that as an epiphenomenon, as something that seems to happen, we see the gurus, we read their stuff, we do things, but awakening happens or it doesn't, to no one. It's very strange. So for me, like for the last 3 months, 4 months, it's been like chaos, like a lot of emotion stuff, a lot of conditioning stuff, a lot of relational stuff. And as that happens, it's strange. It's almost like, and this is a story, but like an energetic knot starts to unwind and you feel everything fully as it is, as it was, as it has been, because there is no was and has been. But those are the stories. So all this conditioning comes up and it's felt. So you're walking through the grocery store, you start crying. You're in your car and you start screaming with rage for no reason. And it's all felt as it is. The textures of life are exactly as they are. What a relief, because you can't push and pull on them. There's no one there to do that anymore. Instead, there's just the textures of life texturing. So the other day I made a video called Sadhguru is full of shit. That's what arose in that moment. I put the phone on the stand on my deck and I started talking, and that's what came out, because somewhere in here, there was this energy of these gurus are full of shit. Anyone who's asking you for money, asking you to join a cult, asking you for devotion is telling a story. Now, maybe that story helps somehow whatever organism drop the mind and you wake up. That certainly happens. And there's plenty of people who can tell you stories like that. But in the end, the dropping is looking back at the guru and going, that was bullshit. Angelo DiLullo tells a great story about a Zen retreat where one of the people who were sitting and they're called sesshin. They're these brutal, highly disciplined things where you sit in this posture and initially you follow the breath, and then you're doing shikantaza where you're just watching things happen. And awakening, satori, can occur, this shift where the center just drops and it's just everything. You can't say a word about it, actually. Everything I just said is bullshit. So it happens apparently to someone. There's some center of perspective there that everything drops. That person gets up and goes to the master in the Dokusan, which is the one-on-one, and says, I'm going to tell everyone out there that they're wasting their time doing this. Like, this is right in front of our face, and it has nothing to do with meditation. It has nothing to do with Zen. And that's it. You died. Everything gets, and of course the master was like, please don't do that, because you went and did it and had this insight. Not saying it's causative, but you can't, if you go and tell them that, it's not going to make any sense. It just won't make any sense to them, because they're still in the seeking mind. The seeking mind is what they are. It is the sense of self, and it won't make any sense. The seeker either exhausts itself, there's some kind of energetic grace, or God knows. Nobody knows. We can't say a word about it. The human is not real in that way. It's real as an appearance, as a texture of life. And what a beautiful texture. So when that starts to drop, crazy shit can happen. So this is just my experience. Crazy shit where things that used to matter don't. Things that didn't used to matter suddenly seem so fascinating, but for no one and for no reason. They just are. And then the textures of life become deliciously precious, including the suffering texture, the texture of disappointment, pain, reactivity. And they don't stick. They arise and they fall away. They arise and they fall away. They're felt fully. They're seen exactly as they are, which is mystery. In a sense, I hesitate to use this word because people misunderstand it. It's perfection. Perfection meaning it could not be otherwise, because it is. Just this. It's just this. So what is this? A finger snapping and some sound. That's the story. What is this? Total unknowability. Perfection. Exactly what it is. And it's gone. As if it were never here. And the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And there's no next thing. There's just. So one of my supporters, we do these, Zoom meetings where we talk about our experience in this and what it's like, because it can be incredibly painful, very confusing, incredibly disorienting, heartbreaking, grief, sorrow, heart sickness, all those things arise. All the things we wouldn't allow ourselves to feel, we make distance from the textures of life. with our mind by jumping into thought. For me, it's jumping into thought. Other people, it's substance abuse, it's distraction, it's hobbies, it's work. For me, I'm too lazy for all that shit. I go into mind tells stories, I live in thought, and then that's the virtual world that is created. And it's not real in that sense. It has no truth value, but it is an appearance. And just like a mirage is real as an appearance, that's real as an appearance. But it makes distance from what we're feeling. We're not feeling it, by the way. What's here, what arises for no one. So what happens when those things are felt fully? Well, the mind that's still there trying to push and pull on it feels terrible. It feels out of control. It feels like it's dying, that it doesn't have a reference point. And it's very uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. So getting together in groups to talk with other humans, because this conditioning is a social conditioning. We do benefit from other humans. That's why we look to gurus, because we're hierarchical creatures too. So we want someone to be smarter than us and better than us and know more than us. They don't. They have less than us. If anything, if they're really awake or liberated, they don't have anything that we don't have, and they know it. So why are they still pretending that they're better? Well, that's a good question. Maybe that's just what's arising. It's fine. But eventually you start to feel this really deeply. So one of my supporters, Diana in Lisbon, at the last Zoom meeting where we were all sharing this stuff, and these are very beautiful, organic, open experiences, because when someone else points out their own experience, you feel the texture of your own much more acutely, and it so strangely and synchronistically relates directly, and something opens. And that's a story, by the way, but it feels like that. So we have to talk, so I'll tell that story. But it's beautiful. So she told the story that she watched a movie called Perfect Days. It's in Japanese. It's by German director Wim Wenders. And she was talking about how it is this beautiful story of a guy who cleans toilets in Tokyo, the fancy toilets in Shibuya in Tokyo. I've used these toilets when I went to Japan. I have a video about my trip to Japan, by the way. If you're really bored, you can watch that. It's 3 hours long. It's on YouTube. And he is so clearly a liberated being by the way he moves, he transmits. And it's not really a transmission. Watch how that movie is it's so, 5 years ago I would have watched it. I couldn't have even gotten through the first 5 minutes. I'm like, this is so fucking boring. Nothing happens. And now me and my wife are watching and we're just like, oh, so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. Because it's just him, textures of life, him cleaning toilets, dealing with his niece, looking at the light dappling through the trees. It is stunning. Listening to cassette tapes in his truck. That's it. That is liberation. That's what we all are looking for. And you look at that from the mind and go, I don't want that. And yet watch his face. The actor's amazing. He's like a famous Japanese actor. He won Best Actor at Cannes that year, I think. And like the last scene of the movie is stunning. That's it. If you don't watch anything else, just watch the last scene. It's everything, because it's nothing. He's not pushing and pulling. He just seems like he just settles into routines. It's the Zen saying, like, before awakening, chop wood, carry water, because that's what they did back then. After awakening, chop wood, carry water. And yet you chop wood and carry water and there's no one doing it. There's no one pushing and pulling on it. There's just chopping wood and carrying water. And so this is how it is. And the strange thing is that can feel very interesting. It can almost feel like sometimes you're less awake, because when something kind of delusive arises, like a ruminating thought, it just arises. You're not authoring these thoughts. You're not coming up with these thoughts. You're not making these thoughts happen. They're just arising. When they arise, they're everything in that moment. So even belief can arise and it's everything, and you can feel like, whoa, and then the signature of what the fuck starts to arise, and then it's seen. Ah, belief. And then it drops, and then the next thing happens. So it's been chaotic here. You can tell by the videos I make, because whatever's arising, it's just like, oh, here, I'm just going to say what's happening. And then I get hundreds of emails and texts from friends who are worried about me. So that's like 90% of people who think I've lost my mind or am depressed or anhedonic or did too many psychedelics, or which it's like I've done a handful of psychedelics in my life. All this stuff, right? And then there's like the 10% that are like, welcome, welcome home to where you never left, where you don't exist in that way. There's just existence. And it's a dance. Ooh, there's a fly. Textures of life. And so, for people who watch my videos, you may just be totally perplexed at times. And then other times something may resonate. The nothing talking to nothing may resonate. But if you pay too much attention to this, it's not going to make sense. And it wouldn't make sense for me either, because it can't. There's no sense to be made. Let's read some comments. What's the name of the movie again? It's called Perfect Days. It's on Hulu for people who have Hulu. Amazing film. You know what? If you guys watch it or you've seen it, please leave a comment after the video's over. Not in the live chat, but after the video's over. Leave a comment and press the like button, because that means other people will see, the algorithm will be juiced and other people will see this and learn about this movie and watch it and see your comment, which is awesome because we all want validation. Alaskan Jules says, I feel like being close to you, just sit with you for a while. You seem to be the only one who understands exactly what is. So that's, Alaskan Jewel, that's sweet of you to say, but it absolutely means absolutely nothing. Because sitting next to this is no different than sitting where you are. I know nothing that you don't know. I have nothing that you don't have. I have nothing, actually. And neither do you. Now, that said, there is something in being around or exposed to those who move in that way. And that's why this movie is a great one to watch. There's something there, and I don't know what it is, but it seems like it's nothing talking to nothing, and it feels intimate and home. It feels like home. I'm grateful for you too, Autumn. Ashley says, one of the reasons I don't talk about this, Ashley's in our supporter group, comes to the Zoom meetings, with family is because I don't want them worrying. Yeah, and here's the thing, Ashley, like when you're early in this and things are falling away and there's awakening and there's all this insight, apparently, the self grabs that and wants to share it with everyone. I did this. I wanted to tell everybody, oh my God, suffering is optional, like all this shit, right? I told my mom, I told my dad, I would tell them like, are you afraid of death? You don't need to be, like crazy shit like this. Such a fucking spiritual ego. And what does it do? Well, yeah, they worry or they get stressed. Like, why don't I have that? It's total nonsense. It's total mind stuff. And you see it on YouTube all the time, the way people express about this stuff. Me too. Me too. I look back at my old videos, they're unwatchable. Some of them I'm like, oh shit, I was channeling nothing there. Well, I wasn't even there. And I remember those videos because it was like, yeah, I remember being not there. So talking about it is like pointless, but sometimes it just comes up and then it's the perfect natural compassion arises and the next thing is done. And maybe it's saying a few things. Maybe it's just being with that person and holding, gosh, I was going to say holding space, but that's nonsense. There's no such thing. The space is holding itself and there's no space and there's no itself. There's just this. You see, it gets a little tricky, but there's no need to talk about it, but there's also no need to worry about your parents because everything is just fine as it is. Whatever Ashley's going to do, she's going to do. That character is going to do that. And so this is what's arising here. The guardrails have come off on my own conditioning. So I can see it. I see that it's not chosen. There's not a free will component there. It's just Zubining. And it's allowed. Because it turns out Zubin has enough conditioning that he's not going to kill someone. He's not going to drive his car off a cliff. He's not going to hurt the ones he loves intentionally. None of those things are going to happen, but he's going to Zubin. So Zubin likes to rant and rave. He likes to say Sadhguru is a fucking con man, because that's how Zubin feels about it. And then people will say, but Sadhguru had this incredible energetic experience. By the way, I got some crazy emails about people who've left his cult. And it is not pretty, you guys. It is not pretty. That said, Zubin's, and now it's allowed fully. And let me tell you, that is a huge relief. Sometimes he's an asshole. Sometimes he's funny. Sometimes he talks about himself in the third person. But there's no need to do that. That's an affectation. Why would you do that? It arises when we're talking. I'm like, Zubin does this because I'm pointing at this thing that is not me. There is no me. But forget about all that. There's just what's happening. Allowing Zubin to be Zubin fully and authentically is a huge relief, because I no longer have to be something I'm not. I no longer have to pretend. I no longer have to seek validation, even when apparent validation-seeking behavior arises, like looking at the comments on a YouTube video and seeing what the response is that arises. And I read them, I get a little triggered, and then this so what arises. Yeah. And it's useful to look at comments because you can see what other people's perspective and view apparently is. And you can recognize it in you. Yeah, I remember that. Or, oh, I get that too. Or, you know what? They're projecting onto me what their own shit is. Or what's really beautiful is when a comment really strikes you. Like some of the really beautiful emails I got were like, hey, I see what you're going through. I recognize it. I've been through that. Here's a little word of advice. It can feel, a lot of bitterness can arise, a lot of anger, a lot of sort of negating everything. Like none of that stuff works. But remember, that also is a view. That also is a perspective that arises, and it means nothing. And that's useful because you can feel that's true. I can feel that's true. Pipananda Dennis, who's a lovely, 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 incredibly wise member of our group, had a minor revelation today that the awareness, and he's a therapist, had a minor revelation today that the awareness that is here is always mindful. And once awake, you do not have to have any intention to be mindful. You just are without interruption. Brilliant. That's exactly how I experience it now, Dennis, because it used to be there had to be intention to be mindful. You know, they say like this is the other thing that, like, if I'm getting on a soapbox right now, Zubin hates this. Zubin hates corporate mindfulness. Zubin hates meditation instruction. Zubin hates these doing practices. Now it arises because it's seen that they're artificial. You're forcing the seeking mind to seek mindfulness, to artificially pay attention to the present moment, which doesn't exist. But the thing is, I had to do that, apparently. It seems that happened for me. I spent hours and hours and hours practicing that. And when it dropped, it was seen that it was totally unnecessary. But was it? I have no idea. So why would I tell someone don't do that? But so how it is now, what Dennis is pointing at is now there's just this. So there's no one mindful of anything. There's just mindfulness. There's just awakeness. There's just knowingness. Isness. Even knowingness implies there's something that knows. There isn't. You can't find it in experience. For me, all there is the experience. And you can't even call it an experience because that implies that someone's experiencing it. There's just these textures. They don't need a knower. They're just what they are, including the texture of the one who feels it's behind its eyes, experiencing them. That's also the texture arising. Isn't that wild? That texture that arises is just what it is. And it fools itself into thinking it's a center of knowing. It's a center of consciousness. It's a center of self. What a wild thing. How beautiful that nothing can show up as that and give us this total sense of agency, free will, self, story, past, future, birth, death, all of it, love, everything. Gorgeous. Another texture of life. So I'm with you, Pip. Middle Sis Monica says, I've become very skeptical of anyone who develops a following, whether it's a guru, religious leader, or a politician. Nobody has answers. Just live your life and do good. I generally align with that sentiment. It's weird because I think about this for me. Like I had this big following from COVID and before for years. I mean, I've been doing ZDogg MD as a thing since 2010. So I had this thing, and then suddenly the bottom started falling out and I started talking about this stuff. And I fell into the trap early on of like, oh, I bet I could talk about this stuff and people would benefit. And then it was quite clear that that was a total delusion. And over the last couple of years, that started to just seriously die. And it felt like death because it was such a deep identity for me that I've been doing it for so long that this Zubin character with all his conditioning, like if you look at my yearbook from 6th grade, people who sign your yearbook, they would say, hope you get famous like you always wanted. Hope you become a famous singer. Hope, you know, all your wildest dreams. Because everybody knew I just wanted to be famous. I wanted to be validated. I wanted to feel like I was worth being alive. I wanted to fill this hole in the center that felt like I wasn't good enough, because we're not. The separate self can never be good enough. It's an energetic pattern that is predicated on never being enough, always seeking the next thing. And it works really well in an environment where it has to compete and evolve and all that. Great. And that's a story too, this environment, the society, all of it. It's all a thought game, but we play in that field, so it worked. So Zubin wanted to be famous. Zubin wanted to feel special. Zubin loves to teach. Zubin went to all kinds of school, all the shit. So when that started to be seen as delusion, as like, wait, what? No. Number one, it doesn't bring happiness. Number two, does it really help anyone? Or are you feeding yourself a fucking bag of shit? Who's it really helping? Your egoic sense that you need something, you need to do something, you need a purpose. There's no purpose except for what is. So when that starts to die, it feels like death. I felt terrible, continued to feel terrible. And only in the last 6 months or so has it really settled in, where it's like, and you notice how many videos I do on YouTube, it's almost never. And when I do, it's just this, whatever's authentically arising. Maybe I'll talk to someone, you know, but it's unusual and it's spontaneous and it's feels right and it's for no one. But I think for a lot of people, they maybe even start with good intentions, like this very empty intention to share, and it gets co-opted very quickly because YouTube in particular is an incredible dopamine hook. And when the conditioning guardrails fall off, the body mind itself will do what it does without any checks and balances. And I think there are people online that haven't really felt into that, and they go off the rails. Even though they've had deep insight, deep realization, they do transmit in a way to others this energetic sense of realization. You can tell, you just go, oh yeah, I mean, the way they express, it's this, and yet they're complete clown fuckers. Or there's shit they're asking you to do that you're like, what? Or they're so fixated on their way, which from here, gang, there's no way. There's no way any of this is. So your way is as good as any way because there's no way. They're just this. There's nowhere to go. Nowhere. It's just the textures of life, just as they are. What a relief. Hi, Jojo. Marianne says, I just watched your, Marianne's in our supporter group too. So is Jojo. I just watched your skit on Sundowners, corn, pickles, Jimmy hats. Exactly. That's Vader Vadering. Doc Vader Vadering. These Sundowners, they're killing me. You go up to, you know, the lady in 4, she's 94. The minute the sun goes down, it's like corn, pickles, Jimmy hats. Like total word salad. I want a sundown, honestly. It's almost time to sundown here in the Pacific. It's 6 p.m. Pacific time. It's time to sundown for Zubin. Sun's still up though. Melissa says, I did benefit from your COVID phase, all the stuff in between, all the way up to this, living the dream with you. How beautiful, Melissa. It's lovely to be together virtually because the whole thing is virtual. Please make a parody music video on Awakening, Middle Sis Monica. I think I will. It'll be making fun of clown fuckers, Reggie. Rose says you have honest eyes. You know what's funny? Everybody sees what they see. So I've had people tell me I have kind eyes, honest eyes, etc. I've had other people tell me I look like a sociopath. So Your mileage may vary. But one interesting thing that happened on the first silent retreat I ever did with Angela DeLulo in Monterey, like back in 2021, was this heart opening happened. I could feel it. Like my heart blew open and energy came out. It was, it's another mystical experience. It has nothing to do with liberation or truth. It's just another experience. But it seems to happen on this path, which isn't a path, to some people. It's one thread of awakening, as Pierce Salguero would say. And I looked in the mirror in my room in between meditation rounds, and I looked at my own eyes. And what I saw was this deep kindness and compassion that I'd never seen in my own eyes. Because looking at the mirror was like looking at someone else. And I was like, who is that? They're like radiating compassion and kindness and love. And I was taken aback. And then I realized it was me. Sorry, my daughter's texting me. I'm supposed to pick her up from her friend's house in a bit. Let me just make sure she doesn't need to be. Can you pick me up in 20? Give me 30. She'll get 10 more minutes with her friend. I have to get Burger King on the way because she really wants Burger King tonight. She likes chicken nuggets and their little wraps. And she wants a Fanta. So every now, she's like so skinny that I just let her eat whatever the fuck processed food she wants, because that's the other thing that's happened here too. I've stopped worrying about my diet. I've stopped worrying about exercise. What I eat shows up, exercise shows up. I lost 10 pounds. I'm stronger than I have been. Like, how the fuck did that happen? I stopped trying. Now, tomorrow I could be morbidly obese and that'd be fine too. It's what's occurring. But if I'm morbidly obese because I'm sitting on repressed emotion and I'm resisting and I'm unhappy, that's a different thing. Because that's why I was, always struggled with weight when I was younger. I look back at old pictures of myself and I just see suffering just in the body. I can see it in the shape. Like it's being held in a way, right? That's a story too, but sure feels real, just like looking in the mirror and seeing compassion. Quirky Dave, who's in our supporter group, I wish I had sun to sundown. 3 weeks of rain is enough already. Oh man, you're in Canada, right, Quirky? Joe, who's in our supporter tribe, says, loved the Asilomar retreat. That's where we met. Boy, we were an anxious mess at that one, weren't we? It was life-changing. Yeah, it really was. So I can't say don't go meditate and all that, even though I say it's all bullshit, and it is. If you're called to do it, if it's showing up, that's part of the unfolding for you. It's not causative. It's what's showing up. Go do it. You resist it, it's just another thing. It's just another pattern that's showing up. LJ says, are you eating the regular Whopper or the Impossible Whopper? I eat the Impossible Whopper, and here's why. Not because I love vegetables and shit, because y'all know I don't give a fuck. It's because it tastes better to me. It's lighter, and you get the best fucking bowel movement from an Impossible Burger because it's like got a shit ton of weird processed plant shit in it. Like it's a highly processed food, but man, it's good. It is fucking delicious. Impossible Whopper. McDonald's better be paying me for this shit. Levy, another supporter, says, hey, Levy, today I did a Facebook Live in the morning from my shed out in my backyard, and I showed him your jingling little Tibetan bells. They're really awesome. Says, I think food just showing up is called DoorDash. Nicely played, sir. Vancouver, that's right, Quirky. Hi, Princess Hannah. Good to see you. Okay. Middle Sis Monica says, I still like to meditate for brain rest. Yeah, so if meditation arises, you're not trying to do anything with it. It's a comfortable state of being. Why the fuck not? Don't resist it. But at the same time, people who push and push and push and meditate trying to like wake up, well, it might work by exhausting the mind and then you just collapse and surrender. Surrender happens to you. Or it might never work. People have meditated for 20, 30, 40 years and they've not gotten any closer to liberation. So that's the catch. That's the sort of trap that can happen. It becomes another egoic fixation. Melissa, you're a supporter. I just didn't see the badge on here. Of course you are. You're on a different platform. There's locals, there's Facebook. You guys can go to zdogmd.com/supporters to check it out. All right, I do have to get my kid because I got to get the Burger King and then go get her. So listen, this is what I'm doing these days. Something may change. I may talk about medical stuff again because there's no way this has to be. If you like this kind of thing and you want to be with other like minds that do that, then join our supporter group. You can do it on YouTube. And what I do is in the supporter feed, I post when we're doing our Zoom meetings, and I do these supporter only live shows to all the platforms, Facebook, locals.com, YouTube. I stopped doing Instagram because there's nobody, it's really clunky how it's set up. And do me a favor, when the video's over or now, hit like or leave a comment after the video is done, or subscribe to the channel. It just helps the algorithm because YouTube hates it when I talk about this shit. And it'd be nice if people who need to see it, I don't know what that means, see it, because that's fun, because then I get cool emails and stuff. My email is hello@zdogmd.com, by the way. You can also click the link in the description of the show notes to get to a contact form. And if you're listening on the podcast, leave a review and subscribe to the podcast. It really helps a lot. Leave a comment. That's it. That's my housekeeping. Apparently, this body mind just does that. Isn't that funny? I didn't intend to do that. I don't really care. But hey, it'd be nice if people wanted to watch the video. That's cool. Great. All right, gang, I love you. I do. This time I do. Until next time. Let me see. Here we go. We're out. Peace.